All right, what's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be taking your database game to the next level. We're talking about multiple database setups, reference databases, categories, different types of resources. Then we're going to wrap it all up by showing you how the data comes together on the platform and how you can actively make the best use of it. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, so before we get into actually building the system, it's probably going to be best if you know exactly what you're doing and how we're building it. So, what are we building, right? So, we're going to be building a multi database setup. It's going to be able to link 3 to 4 databases together. They're all going to be able to communicate together, talk to each other. You're going to be able to show whatever properties you want. And yeah, so let's get into the example. So, in order to give you a visual, I'm going to pop over to the resources page over here, and you can see that at first glance, we have categories up at the top, detailed info, case studies, legal docs, tutorials, resources. Shout out Nick Sarah of Maker School and everything you do for us. Appreciate you, big guy. But what are we really looking at, right? So if I pop up over here to a little breakdown that I made, you'll see that I've taken this exact page and just kind of chopped it up into different colors. So at first glance, you can see that we're going to deal with the source database. So in our example over here, that's going to be resources. And don't get them confused. The fact that it also says sources in resources, this could be named, list or, digital product or something along the lines of that. We just happen to be making a resource page, and this is called, the source database as well. So just think of this where all of our resources are going to lie. So in our case, we have a video from Nick and I wanted to save it. So I'm going to add it to the resource hub, right? Well, from the source database, we're going to want to connect that to a category, right? So if I come back over to the resources and just say we add a new page and we name this, example. At first glance, we get to add this to a category. So we'll pick, personal. We go to type, we'll pick case studies because we can see it. For business, we'll put this for Notion. For link media, we don't have a link right now, so we won't. So at first glance, you can see example popped up, right? For case studies, Notion, and we also got the date added. All right, so this primarily works for 2 reasons. So the source database is originally connected to categories, right? But then the source database is also connected to the display over here. So when we click into the Nick video, we're seeing the option to link a display, but we're also seeing an option to link it to a category. So from the source database right here, we get to take this video and we get to add it to total resources. And we also get to add it to case studies, tutorials, or whatever we want in this display as well. So in order to get the resource page working, we're going to go out into set up the databases. I know right here it says 4, but in our case, we're only going to be using 3. And then I'll get into how to add the 4th one either later on in this video or in a video that I'll come out with soon. So the ones that we're mainly going to be dealing with are categories, source, and display. So I'm going to come and I'm going to take the reference one. I'm going to move that down there so we know that this is an extra. And then we're going to pop back over to our main resource hub and we're going to go about setting this up. So I'm going to come back with the databases set up. Okay, so now that we got the databases set up, I'm going to kind of take this into like a live build. So now you can see we have our resources, we have our resource categories, we have our resource display. So if I pop over here, it's just like our source, our categories, and our display. So everything's going to be named similar so you guys can keep track of what's going on. So if we come over to resources and we put in our first, resources as YouTube example, sorry, I can't type. We're going to first see that nothing happens, right? So we're going to need to start making these relations. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the resource categories and we're going to link it to the resources right here. We're going to come over to the properties. We're going to new property. We're going to create a new relation and we're going to add this to help desk resource category. We're going to, I like to take off the beginning of it, name it resource categories. We're going to make that a two-way relation. Name this resources. And now you can see that resource categories has populated right here. So if we go ahead and we say YouTube example is a, personal, or yeah, YouTube example, we'll go with YouTube video instead, and then we will make that entertainment. So now you can see that if I come over to the resource categories and I click into say entertainment, you'll see now that we have resources, right? But nothing's really happening, within, the property. We can't do anything to it. So we're right now going to create a roll up. We're going to create the roll up of, resources. We can name this resource label. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take the resource category, the target property of the name, because that's going, so by taking the target property name, this is going to take all of the resources that we have. So if I go back in entertainment and I go to calculate, we can actually count this by all. So now you can see the resource label says 1. And a cool thing that we can do is now that we have AI, we can go to a formula. We can name this resource. Okay, so I actually messed up in the first go around. So the roll up is going to be called resource count. This is, counting all of the names in the resource database. And then what we're going to do with this resource label and AI, ChatGPT in specific, is we're going to come over here. We're going to first take a screenshot of all of our properties. I'm going to drag that screenshot into AI, and then I'm actually going to talk to AI. I'm going to say, can you generate me a label with the properties that I gave you? I want this to say resource label in style B font. I want the label to be bolded, but I want the number to come out in normal font. And I want you to take the resource count as the property that we're counting from. So we're going to go ahead let that, voice play out. Then we're going to go ahead and generate that. Give that a quick second to do its thing. Got you. You want a Notion formula. We're going to take this, come back over here. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. As you can see right away, we got resource label 1. We just coded using, AI like that. So now that we have our label, we want to go ahead and add that so that we can see it. So if I come back into the properties, we're going to take our resource label. We're actually going to show that. So now you can see that all of our categories have our names, and underneath that actually has the label of everything linked to it through that relation. So if I come over here and I, say make, video 2, and I also want to add that to entertainment, you can see that in real time, that resource label updates to 2. So we're going to do a really similar thing with the display. We're going to come over here. We're going to add another relation, but this time it's going to be towards the resource display database and not the categories. So we're going to find help desk resource display. We're going to go ahead and delete the prefix to it, make it a two-way relation, and then name that resources. And just an FYI, we're naming this resources. If this was, a notes page or something, you name that notes. But I'm going to go ahead and add that relation. And as you can see, it populates right down here in the resource database. All right, so now we're going to want to go and do the same thing that we just did in resource categories, but over here in the resource display. So we're going to take YouTube video and video 2, and we're going to go ahead and add those two tutorials. And that's going to link that to the tutorial section right here. So if I click on this, you'll see that YouTube video and YouTube video or video 2 have, populated. So we're going to also take, the resource count by going into edit property, relation resources, target property, the name, count all, name that resource count. Now we're going to do that thing we did before with ChatGPT, where we take all of the formula names. So it's easier if you just take the names. We're going to copy this into ChatGPT and be like, hey, ChatGPT, can you generate me a formula with that says resources and then the number of resources using the roll up in the picture that I sent you above. So we're going to use that, and I'll come back in one quick second when this loads. So as you can see, it says based on the formula, blah, blah, blah. We don't even care. We're just going to take it. Come over here. We're going to take our formula. We're going to name this, label to start. We're just going to copy and paste that in there. So as you can see, now we have resources too. We can go over to the properties and move our label right underneath. I know that was only the second example of me utilizing ChatGPT in order to populate some of these tags, but you're going to soon realize from watching my channel how crazy this is. If I showed you my task list formula and how advanced it is, it tracks by day, color codes the dates, and does just crazy things within that formula. I can read it, but I could never in my life. I mean, maybe one day if I decided to learn, but not today. Could never, write anything close to that. I can't even write, what we just did. That's why I utilize AI. But you can utilize it too, and there's nothing stopping you from building everything that I do with the use of AI. All right, so for the most part right now, everything's flowing smoothly and exactly how we would want it to flow. One example that I would do is go into the layout and turn this into a list view. We can go into the properties and show all of them. Just to make it look better, we can say television or something like that. We go to icons and put like a TV. Then once we have all the icons set up, the only thing we got to do is come in here and add a description. Now you don't have to do this, but I personally like to do this. You come add your description, come into properties, and then put description underneath above the label. We then come into tutorials. I'm going to go over to my other setup and grab the name. We can come into the description, copy and paste that, put that at the top. Now you can see that under tutorials, it says that this is a step-by-step guide for learning and doing. We have 2 resources, and both of the resources are populating right here on the right. So this is how you link multiple databases to one in order to create a resource hub. You could do this for notes. You could do this for a lot of different things. There's also, like I said before, a reference database that you can add on top of this, which is a 4th database. And just for a little breakdown of that, a reference database would be this, if you want to take a little read at this, what it is, it's, primarily holds information, holds facts, statistics, background information. I use it as like a place to link to the display. So it takes all of the information within the source database, and it goes from the source database to the reference. The reference will, populate it how I want and then send it over to all of the other databases. This is only necessary in a couple scenarios, but when you do get it down and you do find yourself in the need for it, it's very powerful and extremely useful when building. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I wanted to keep it quick and to the point so you can get back to building your perfect dashboards. I had a lot of fun making this, and I'll have more tutorials on my other templates coming out shortly, so stay tuned for those. If you're interested in recreating this setup or diving deeper into Notion databases, shoot me a message over on my Instagram and I'll make sure to get back to you. Like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.